Today we're going to talk about trig ratios. Oh, thank you. Trig ratio is a ratio of two sides of a right triangle. All right, and there are three trig ratios that you're going to be working with this week. And then we'll add more next week. Not more, but different versions of those ratios. The first trig ratio is called, the symbol on the calculator is just Sin. Call it sine. And the sine of an angle is equal to its opposite side over the hypotenuse. Cosine. The button is COS on the calculator. And the cosine of an angle is equal to its adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And the third ratio is, the button on the calculator is tan, and that's short for tangent. And tangent of an angle is equal to opposite over adjacent, or the length of the side opposite the angle over the length of the side that is adjacent to the angle. Now, there's an acronym that's been around forever for remembering these ratios. And the acronym is Sohcahtoa. And it's Sohcahtoa. Sohcahtoa. And if you look at it, here's how it works. The SO part, SOH, is the acronym for sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. Sohcah, CAH in the middle, is the acronym for cosine, is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And TOA represents tangent being equal to opposite side over adjacent side. So today you're going to be writing some trig ratios when you're given a right triangle. So look at the bottom, example 1 on the bottom of 541. You're given this triangle. It's a right triangle, SRT. The legs are S to T is 12, T to R is 5, hypotenuse is 13, and you're asked to write each trig ratio.
What makes S?
That's a 5.
Oh.
That one's a 5, and this one, this vertex is an S. So
I also thought it was an S.
write each trig ratio and round to the nearest hundredth. Round to the nearest hundredth. So when you're writing trig ratios, you don't write trig ratios for the right angle. Because when you're dealing with opposite and adjacent and hypotenuse, nothing makes sense in regard to the right angle. So we're going to write the sine of angle S, the cosine of angle S, and the tangent of angle S. And anytime I'm dealing with trig ratios or finding sides using trig ratios, I always write the acronym right where I'm working. Or on the top of your paper when you're doing an assignment. Or as soon as you get your quiz on Friday, you write Sohcahtoa on the top of your paper. And you refer to it when you're doing each problem. It eliminates a lot of mistakes. So here's what all this means, that the sine of angle S is going to be equal to, sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So in regard to this angle right here, S, the side that is opposite that angle is 5. And the hypotenuse of that triangle is 13. So if sine equals opposite over hypotenuse, then sine equals the 5 over 13. And in your calculator, you can set it to second fix 2, so it'll round everything to the nearest hundredth, and then take 5 and divide it by 13. 0.38. Cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. So the side that is adjacent to angle S, there's two sides that are adjacent to angle S, 12 and the 13, but the 13 is already the hypotenuse. So the adjacent to S is 12, and the hypotenuse is 13. And then you divide it. And tan, which is toa, opposite over adjacent. So opposite, yep, 5 over 12. So that's sine, cosine, and tangent for angle S. And now you're going to do the same thing for angle R. So sine of R is equal to, in regard to angle R, opposite of R is the 12. And the hypotenuse is still 13. And you've already done 12 over 13, haven't you? And that's 0.92. Cosine of angle R. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's 5 over 12, 5 over 13. And we've already done that, it's 0.38. And then tangent of angle R. That's opposite over adjacent. So 12 over 5. And 12 divided by 5, 2.4. And those are your sine, cosine, and tangent ratios for the two acute angles in a right triangle.
I like this. This is understandable.
Yes, ma'am. Very understandable. The other thing you're going to do is just calculator problems today.
Wait, so those are the answers?
Yes, sir.
Oh. You still working?
On page 542, you're asked to use your calculator. To find each ratio. And we're going to say rounded to the nearest hundredth. Cosine 76. So you type 76 into the calculator and you push the cosine button. And it should say 0.24?
Yeah.
Okay. 0.24. Try sine 62. And what is that? 62 sin? You guys get 0.88?
I got 99. Wait, what number was it again?
That was 62 sine.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Alright, good. How about tan? 82. 7.12. Now, everybody okay with that? That's just put it into the calculator. There'll be a couple questions on your quiz and on your study guide tomorrow that aren't in the book. And here's what they'll look like. It'll say something like tan blank equals 0.19. So that's saying the tangent of what angle equals 0.19. So on your calculator, look at the buttons in green behind sine, cosine, tangent. Alright, see how it's sin, cos, tan raised to the negative 1 power? Now, type in 0.19 and then push second tangent. And do you get 10.76?
Yeah.
10.76. So that's how you find an angle measure when you're given the tangent of that angle. You use the tan, sine, or cosine to the negative 1 power. Yeah.
Can you do it
This
again?
one I get syntax errors.
You press the symbol.
Then put in tan negative 1 first and type 0.19 and hit equals.
Keep that second in your
So try cosine. You're looking for the cosine of an angle that's equal to 0.87. I got 29.54. Making sense? Because next week you're going to use these ratios to find side lengths, and then you're going to use the ratios to find angle measures and side lengths. Okay? So let's do one more. Let's do, we already do sine. Yeah, just do this one again. We'll do sine of an angle is equal to 0.14. You're looking for the angle measure, so it's 0.14 second sine. 8.05? Okay. So does everybody see how to use the sin, cos, tan button and then the second sin, cos, tan button?
So we use that one, like how it's gonna say code, it's gonna be set up like that.
Yeah, it's going to be tangent blank equals 0.19. When you got to find the angle measure, you have to use the second button on the calculator. When you're finding the ratio, all right, then you just use the regular, sine, cosine, tangent button. Depends on what you're trying to find. Okay? And these are, when you're using the second sine, cosine, tangent, or sine, cosine, tangent to the negative first power, they're reciprocal functions. All right, so your practice for today is going to be on page 545. And 3 through 8, 12 through 17, and that's all. Check headline for homework.